thing comes up, people attach it to the mark of the beast. By the way, we learned that the needs have been passed. And so needs is coming. National identification for Jamaicans. And so for those who thought that it was the mark of the beast, I guess they would be getting scared. Eh? And then there are a lot of people who are against the vaccine because they don't want to get the mark of the beast. And there are so many things. But what does the Bible teach us about the mark of the beast? And this is what is important. It is striking to me to hear of Adventists connecting this pandemic with the mark of the beast. And it caused me to wonder what has happened to us. And in fact, I think what we are doing is fulfilling some parts of the prophecy that indicate how some of us will fall out. And bright lights will go dim. Because some things will come up and we'll rush after it because it sounds good. And not sticking to what the Bible really teaches. And what that does, what the devil is doing now, is using that to divert our minds and to distract us so that when the real thing hits in, we are lost. Because we would have been caught up in the wrong thing and lost sight of what is really true. So this evening, I am going to attempt to take us back to what the Bible really teaches on the mark of the beast. And of course, Revelation chapter 13 is a major text in this regard. So Revelation chapter 13, and also there's Revelation chapter 14 that plays a significant role in this whole subject on the mark of the beast. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to go to Revelation chapter 13, and we'll read from 1 to 8. And then when we have through reading from verses 1 to 8, then we will be looking at each points that are raised in Revelation chapter 13, 1 to 8. So I want everybody to be part of all of this, as it's going to be interactive. So I have 8 verses, and I want 8 persons to read a verse. So let me see the hands of those who will read. 8 persons, put up your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's the other half? All right. 5. All right. So guess what now? Since as I have 5, I hope we can work out the maths good now. So sister, yes? That's where I'm going. I have to give some people 2. You understand? So Sister White, can you do 2 for us? So you do 1 and 2. Sister Rose, you want to do just 1 verse? Just 1 verse you will do, all right? So Sister White, I give you 1 and 2. Sister Rose, you do 3. Sister Warlock, 4 and 5. My brother, remind me of your name? O'Neill? All right, so 6 and 7. And Sister Gray, Sister Gray, I saw your hand up? Yes, you do verse 8. So let's begin now. Sister White. we must pay attention to all of these pointers that are there, these beast things, and what it's talking about beast. Keep just focus on those because we're going to be looking at them. Sister Rose, verse 3. Amen, Sister Warlock. Brother O'Neill said that. Sister Gray?
Whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
Thank you very much. Now, you know that the devil does not want us to know the truth. But God desires that we understand what is going on. In studying the mark of the beast, we must address some sensitive issues. You can't study the mark of the beast without naming some names and going into some specifics. And of course, it's not something that it's popular to do, but when we present in the mark of the beast, we have to be firm because God loves his people. And God's intention is to help, is for his people to know the truth. The message is not from us, it comes from Jesus. And so if the message concerning the mark of the beast comes from Jesus, then we must want to know what Jesus is saying about the subject and be willing to follow accordingly. Agree? And with eternal death facing those who receive the mark, it would be wrong to not help God deliver the message. And that's why we are Seventh-day Adventists, because we have a responsibility to deliver the last days saving messages. So, as we have read Revelation 13, 1 to 8, I'm going to ask us now to also read verses 16 to 18. Read verse 16 to 18. All right, so that is 3 verses. One person could read that for me. Revelation chapter 13. We are still in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18. Read, Sister Gray.
Rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell,
Thank you very much. So I want to keep all these texts in mind. We're going to go to now Revelation chapter 14, verse 9 to 12. Revelation chapter 14. Who will 9 to 12? So let's divide that up.
Revelation 14, verse 9 to 12.
Yes. Raji, if you're going to read,
Yes, I read.
go ahead.
And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture in the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb. 11. And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
Now, all these texts that we have read are key texts when looking at the mark of the beast. Fact is that the final battle between Satan and God is just ahead, meaning that it is not far away. And it is described in the book of Revelation. The prophetic book points out that God has an emblem. God has a what? God has an emblem. God has a mark that will identify his people. Make note of that. God has an emblem. God has a mark that will identify his people. And understand this, that for everything that God has established, Satan has a counterfeit. Very important. So just like how God has an emblem or a mark, emblem and mark is similar, to identify his people, Satan also has an emblem or mark that will identify those who support him. So that is very fundamental and important that you understand. God has his mark to identify his people. Satan also has his mark to identify those who support him. Once you get that basic thing in mind, when you go further, you're going to understand now, or get a better understanding of how this mark of the beast really is set up and where the demarcation takes place between God's people and those who are supporters of Satan. Now, Satan will work through an earthly power, symbolized in Revelation by a beast. Satan will work through earthly powers, symbolized in Revelation by a beast. Just keep that in mind. To impose his mark. So now, this study that we will go through will reveal the beast mark, which every lost person of the end time will receive. Every person in the end time will that does not on the side of Christ will receive the mark of the beast. So only those who have made the right choice on the side of Christ will be spared from receiving the mark of the beast. Yes, Rajiv?
Yes, Elder. So, those who receive the seal of God reject the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast, anybody that receives the mark of the beast, as Jamaicans would say, they have no lot of back with God again.
Exactly.
So in a matter how much you know about God, no. If that, by that time, if you receive the mark at that time,
Yes.
right, and I know that God would have, proclaim a message for everybody to decide.
Yes.
You're saying that God will give them a chance to know the truth, and if they receive the mark, no matter how much good them you do, you're lost.
You're lost. You're lost. Because, and you talk about people know about Christ. So, you say no matter how much you know about Christ, because a lot of people know about Christ. But do you know Christ? What did he say? If he loved me. So those who know him live in obedience to his will. Those are the people who truly know Christ. So knowing about Christ don't help. It is knowing Christ. And if you say that you know him, one text says, and don't keep his commandments, then you're a liar. And that's New Testament text, All right, so I have to make that clear. That's New Testament text. Because some people say the commandment is no more. And we'll get to that a little more. Now, the first thing we want to look at, as we read Revelation 13, 1 to 8, and then 16 to 18, we're going to dissect that now. All right? We're going to dissect those texts that we read. Revelation 13, 1 to 8, and verses 16 to 18. So that we understand where we're going. Are we together? All right. So in order to know what the mark of the beast is, we must first identify the beast. You cannot identify the mark of the beast if you don't know the beast. So, is needs the mark of the beast? Is taking vaccine the mark of the beast? Because then I would ask you, who is the beast? So the first thing we're going to do is to identify the beast. So, how do we identify the beast? Now, verse 1 of Revelation chapter 13 highlighted that this beast that we are talking about came out from where? Look back on the text, verse 1. Where did the beast come from? The beast rise up out of the sea. Right, Sister Rose, I wanted to get it, and I don't want to leave anybody behind. So the beast, what we're doing here is to identify the beast, right? And what the text says in verse 1 is that the beast rises out of the, and it's very important that you understand that it says sea, because we're going to now look at what sea means in prophecy. All right? Which is important. And we're coming to that. The second thing in chapter, and I'm not going to ask you to read, but in chapter 7, Daniel chapter 7, verse 2, and maybe I should make you read it. Go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 2. Go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 2. As we look at the second point coming from that.
Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven stroke upon the great sea.
So it is composite of the four beasts in Daniel chapter 7, verse 2. In other words, what we saw in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1, where the beast coming out of the sea, we are seeing now in Daniel chapter 7, verse 2, that the same thing occurred. Are we seeing that? Yes, Rajiv?
In verse 3 said, and 4 beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
Exactly. So notice that the beast comes up from where? Keep that in mind. Now we go down to the third point. The dragon gives his power of authority, verse 2 of Revelation 13, verse 2. Look at that. The dragon did what? He gave his power of authority to the beast. That's what you see there? That the dragon gave his power of authority to the beast. Now, these are very important points, so I want you to keep them in mind as you go along, because you're going to see how everything unfolds. So we move to the next point, verse 3 of Revelation 13. What does it say? So the beast receive a deadly wound. These are very important points. The devil, the beast receive. So let me go back again now. So one, we saw the beast coming up out of and then secondly, we saw the beast giving his authority to the dragon giving his authority to the beast. And then now we are seeing now that the beast receive a what? A deadly wound. So the question we are trying to answer is, who is this beast? We don't reach there yet. All right. Now, then the same text tells us something else about the beast. After receiving the wound, what happened? The wound was healed. What does that mean? These are some of the things that we are going to look at as we go forward. The beast was wounded, and then the wound was healed. What is all of that? All right, we move to the next point before I take you there, because I'm laying out all the points coming out of Revelation 13. So look at verse 7. So read from verse 3, read verse 7 for me of Revelation 13. What does it say?
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, and tongues, and nations.
So what we are seeing is that this beast has strong political powers. No, pay attention, you know. This beast has strong political powers. Verse 8.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the
What are we seeing there? He has strong political powers, but what else he has? Strong religious powers. Yes, this beast wants worship. So it's a religio-political power. Get that? So we're getting closer to somewhere. All right. Everybody, have I lost anybody? All right, let's move on. And then now, we're going to look at, let's read verse 1 again, and then verse 5 and verse 6 as we bring something out of all those three. Verse 1.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
Note that word. Verse 5.
And there was given unto him a mouth
verse 6.
Verse 6 says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
So notice that this beast power is a political power, has religious power, and is guilty of blasphemy. Let's look at verse 7 again as we pick something else out of it. You see how much things we're picking out of one text? Go again, Rajiv, verse 7.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations.
So he makes what? War with the saints and overcome the saints. Now, let's go back to verse 5 again. This is how you investigate texts.
And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
So he was given power to rule for 42 months. And all these we're going to look at as we go along, right? What is this 42 months in prophecy and so on? We're going to get there. And then the next point that I want to bring out is found in verse 18 now.
Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
It has a mysterious number. So the beasts carry a mysterious number. And notice that it says it's a number of a... So, I know the vaccine again. I know it again. It's a number of a... All right, so we're getting somewhere now. Follow me closely now. Now the beast introduced in Revelation 13 verse 1 is simple another name for the Antichrist. All right? So some church teaches about the Antichrist and they are all confused about it because they don't know that it is connected to this beast power. All right? So when you look at Revelation 13 verse 1 and it speaks about the beast is a name that is similar to Antichrist. Daniel 7 is in Daniel 7, which we learn from Daniel 7, we learn that this Antichrist is the papacy. In Daniel chapter 7, we learn that this Antichrist, this beast, is the papacy. And we soon talk about the papacy. Some of you who are here who used to be in my New Converse class some time ago when Sister White, you remember, we talk about the papacy and so on and how the papacy came about. And when you look at Daniel chapter 7, you're going to see about the little horn and so on that rise up among 10 horns and destroy three of them by coming up and becoming a great mighty power that spoke blasphemy and all of that. So that's where we are. This is the papacy. We're talking about papal Rome, right? So we're getting there. So prophecies in the book of Daniel and Revelation are often presented multiple times with details added each time to encourage accurate interpretation. And that is why we went through Revelation 13 the way we did, so that you can understand what is happening, what is John saying in these texts in Revelation 13. So let's consider them one by one now. We went through and we look at the listing as it came out of Revelation 13. We're going to go through them now in a little more detail, one by one. So follow me now. Let's consider that. 11 points that describe the beast. We're going to look at 11 points that describe the beast. Are you ready? 1. It would rise from the sea. We saw that in verse 1. True? Now, what is that about? That is what we need to know. The sea or water in prophecy, get this now, refers to people or a populated area. So when Revelation 13:1 says that a beast rised up out of the sea, it is saying that this power, because when we talk about beast, we're talking about power and authority, right? So this power rise up from among the people. So it's not literal sea. So because you see sea in the text, it not, and that this is what confuses some people when they look at Revelation and read these things. And Daniel, they see beasts coming up out of the sea, and they say, boy, yes man, there coming a time when beasts going to come up out of the sea, and all of this going to happen, man. But when it comes on to prophecy, many of the things that are mentioned there are not literal. They are figurative. They are symbolic. So here, when we see the beast coming up out of the water, out of the sea, it is saying that this power came out from among the people. And that is why when you look at Daniel 7 and see the little horn and so on, you get an understanding of this power coming up from among the people. Yes, Rajiv.
Yes, Elder, and further on in Revelation, when you get to chapter 17.
Yes, which is where I'm going.
Oh, all right, I won't overstep.
So can we now go quickly to chapter 17, verse 15, Revelation chapter 17, verse 15. Read verse 15, somebody.
All right. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, and the peoples and the multitudes are. Thank you. The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations. And
beautiful. So what is happening there now? Anybody can tell me what is happening there? Based on what I explained before. Eh? Exactly. So the Bible interpreting itself. You see that? So we don't make up anything, you know. You understand? When we say no real beast come up out of the sea. Right? Because the Bible, Revelation 17:15 now explains it. That what is it coming up out of the sea? It's coming from among people. This power, this authority comes up from among people, from among populated area. So another animal. You understand me? So the beast, the Antichrist that we're talking about, would arise amid the established nations of the then known world. And so we're talking about the papacy arose in Western Europe. So it fits the point, right? So in order for us to kind of understand the nations, the established nations that existed, we know we would have to go back now where we look at Daniel chapter 2 and we see the image and when the stone hit the image, and we know that the image represents kingdoms and power and authority, right? So when you understand those things, and that's why I said before when I started out that this topic that I'm presenting, there are other parts to it that we would not be able to touch this evening. We're just hitting right into this. And so when you'd have to go back to Daniel chapter 2, you go to Daniel chapter 3 and 4, 7, 8, and 9. And you begin to tie all of that in to this subject matter. Yes, brother. Why God allows some of these things to happen? Why God make it harder for us to understand? All right. Good question. Good question. And watch the answer now. Because I thought about that even while I went through the thing last night to prepare myself. And I looked at that. And then this is where I went. Jesus, while he was here, how did he taught? What was the reason?
For us to understand.
No, notice that when he spoke in parables in the wide public, what does he happen? The disciples come one side and say, Jesus, what did it mean by that? You know why? Because it is for the people of God to understand, while the rest of the world is confounded, and we must teach them and bring those who need to come, because not all will come. So they can't have the full picture of the thing, and they can't know everything. If they knew it, they would have found a way to twist it. You understand? But when God give it like this now, and then he inspire his people to bring it forth through study and revelation, then this is why we are Seventh-day Adventists. And we have a mandate to teach the world these things. No, we need to understand it so that we can explain it to them.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, Rajiv.
Yeah, Elder, I agree with you fully. Now that I think about it, because I had the same question in my head.
Yes.
People question me all the while too, since this vaccine thing. When I start to talk about things like this, they say, why God make it so hard?
Yes.
Why couldn't us talk straight?
Yes.
And now that I think about it, Elder, during the period of the Dark Ages, when man wasn't allowed to read the Bible
Yes.
for himself, they were being taught a version of the Bible that wasn't real. So it was twisted.
Yes.
So God know why he hid certain things, because if the papacy could identify itself and realize what
Long time.
it would have been exposed.
Yes. And notice that since we've been preaching all these things, they've been trying to do things to sort of make it look like it's not true. I don't know if you notice, right? So they soften up with some of their action and and they are more subtle now than ever before. You understand? Good. So that is important. A very good question, and I'm happy for that. Yes.
What about the Adventists? What know the truth? Them come into the church, know the truth, and after they know the truth, then leave out of the church, form a different church for themselves, and twist it around and telling the wrong thing.
Yeah, because, again, Satan is very subtle. And Satan can even deceive those of us who knows the truth. Now, the Bible says that some of us rather believe a lie than to believe truth. So there are those of us who learn the truth, find reason to begin to doubt. Some persons also begin to dig and to do some research of their own, and again we talk about itching ear. So they hear some things and they're very curious and they want to hear more, and they dig into it. But the more you seek after error is the more you lose truth. Yes. Yes. It's a scary book. Yes. So some people says it's a closed book. Yes. 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 Right. Right. Exactly. So that is the problem. Now there are some now who have taken our books and have read it and trying to teach the thing. But guess what now? You see, God is amazing. And this morning the speaker alluded to some of those things, how amazing God is. Because God knows how to hide the things from those who just try to use it for their own purposes. So although some of them will get to our books and read it and try to preach on the prophecies, because their motive is not right, them still can't deliver it the way we do. Because it was not given to them. You understand? Sister Wallach? Not the church longer here, Sister Wallach. Yes. Foolishness now. But say, sister, this is what is amazing to me now. When I listen to some of the Adventists who have been in the church for years, get confused over this COVID thing and connecting it to mark of the beast. And I say, what happened? The devil has steal a mark on us. And it is segregating the church because some of these prominent people losing their way. And guess what? It is not surprising because it is in the great controversy under the topic, the great conflict, I think, that their bright lights will go out and some will be falling away, some bright lights. When you talk about bright lights, you're talking about people who already know the truth, you know. That's what you're talking about. So deception doesn't occur with people who don't know. It occurs with people who knows and the devil trick them. Yes, my brother. Go ahead. Now you see, these are some of the rubbish. And we really have to rubbish these things because it is what the devil is using to divert our minds from the real thing. And that's why today, I mean, when I was from last week, because I keep hearing the cry that you people need Bible class. And so last week when I think it's Jessica really came down on me, why we not having Bible class? Why can't we have in Bible class? We need to have Bible class. And I say, yes, I'm gonna commit myself to it for this week. And I thought of what I would begin to present. But then when Vanessa called me yesterday and said to me, Elder, understand you're gonna do Bible class? And I said, yes. And she says that she don't know what I'm going to do, but she wants for AY for us to discuss the mark of the beast. And then in discussion, I say, okay, fine. So we can connect from Bible class and just use that and just run it. And really and truly, this is what we need to be doing now to help some of our people who are confused to get back to Bible and to understand what does the Bible teach on this subject. And once we understand it, then nobody can divert our minds again. All right? So, as we see here, that Daniel 7 is the papacy. In the Daniel 7, it tells us that this beast that we're talking about is a papacy. Prophecies in the book of Daniel and Revelation are often presented multiple times with details added each time to encourage accurate interpretation. So let's consider them one by one. This is what I did, and I began to look at verse 1, and we see that the coming out of the water in prophecy that refers to people or population. So now we understand clearly that what Revelation 13:1 is saying. So the beast, the Antichrist, would rise amid the established nations of the then known world. The papacy arose in Western Europe, so it fits in the point. So now, let me look at a word of explanation here as we look at that. Now, in harmony with God's command to honor all people, found in 1 Peter 2:17, we pause here, the author says, to recognize the papacy for her good deeds. In other words, we must not overlook the fact that the papacy have some good deeds and good activities, right? She has hospitals. She has orphanages. She cares for the poor. Homes for the unwed mothers. They have homes for unwed mothers, right? And they care for the aged. They are, and they appreciate, universally they care for the aged. She can honestly be lauded for many things. And this is important because Satan not coming to you with all bad. Yeah, give you some nice good things and powder you up and puff you up and thing. And you don't know what go on under the bottom. So, but like all other organizations, she has also made serious errors. God pinpoints some of these errors in Revelation. The Lord who blesses and comforts must sometimes chasten and correct. Not true? So God not just bless up. He must chastise sometime and correct. And because the word of God, it chastises, it has two edges sword, it corrects, it cut asunder that bad thing we need to cut off, and it heals, right? So the Lord blesses and He comforts, but sometimes He chastises and corrects. So as we go through this study, we have to connect with the Holy Spirit to help us to understand this study. Because some people would say what we are saying about the papacy cannot be true because of the nice things she does all the time. So, and based on what I'm seeing here, I don't think we're going to finish this today. All right. So, Daniel chapter 7, we're not going to, we read some of it. Well, I think I'm going to go through it. I'm going to take you through piece by piece. So, when you look at Daniel, and what we're going to do is do a comparison between Daniel 7 and Daniel 13, right? So it would be a composite of 4 beasts of Daniel chapter 7, Revelation 13:2. So we're going to study the comparison and see how it pans out. Daniel chapter 7, let's look at verse 4. Read verse 4 and see what it says. Right. Now, this is the beast of Daniel chapter 7. Right? Yes, Urges. Yes. 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 Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 All right. Beautiful. Lovely. Lovely. Lovely.